Yes, Mr. Moss?
Hi, Bryan Moss, 16 Ruth and Circle, Precinct 8. I just had some questions. When we talk about banning or regulating marijuana establishments, when I was reading through some of the documentation, it mentions many different kinds of establishments. So I saw there's retailers like storefront, delivery only, retailers, social consumption, which I know has been mentioned a lot tonight, though, these types. But there's also research, testing labs, transportation, businesses, micro businesses where you co-locate a lot of those, cultivators, craft cultivators and cooperatives, and product manufacturers. So there's a lot of those. So when we talk about the number of establishments, if we're saying 2, what would that apply to? 2 of each, 2 of all, any combination of those, whoever comes first? I just didn't know if you had clarification on.
I would have to seek.
I'm looking right now, but go ahead.
I would have to seek further clarification, but I think it's, within the regulations and the statutes that I've read, they're characterized all as marijuana establishments. If you read those, so a bylaw that would limit it to 2 would be any and all of those types. It's further my understanding that you could ban any particular type and do not have to ban all types.
Oh, you can ban a specific type? Because I'm wondering if, I heard a lot tonight about, storefront. This is my interpretation. What I heard tonight was storefront and social, maybe consumption, more direct. But for all these other businesses, is there a plan to, ban all of these businesses which aren't directly providing this to people in town?
Yeah, Mr. Sewell?
I don't think the board's certainly not there yet, but my understanding is that you can approve the retail, you can ban the retail, you can approve the growing, and ban the growing. It's not, you can do it all. You can ban everything, or you can pick and choose what you're going to ban.
Do you think the board will be considering that when they bring something forward, that there might be or is right now just all or nothing?
I think the board, we haven't gotten that far yet. I think the board will certainly, as we usually do, consider all options, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Another question. This is for the Board of Health, if they could answer this, but I know they had voted in their meeting, as it was said, that, to, recommend a ban, but, that we regulate other things in town, so we regulate alcohol, we regulate tobacco. So I was just wondering if, if they could give some, evidence-based information on the addiction rates as it compares between marijuana, alcohol, and tobacco, and or the risk of death rates. So some of these things that we've been talking about tonight, which ones are worse than the others?
Is anyone from the Board of Health prepared to answer that question? Mr. Vidget?
Steve Vitchin, Chairman of the Board of Health. The board did not consider, this level of detail. One of our board members, Dr. Maria Narducci, is not here tonight. She might have more information in that regard, but the purpose of our meeting was to get a sense of the board as to what our feeling was, our position was in regard to, I think the thought was mainly in regard to retail, recreational marijuana. We did not consider the other types of facilities when we thought, and again, that was just getting a sense of the board. When we get a specific proposal before us, such as in a warrant article, then we can consider it more carefully. But we have not looked at the such details. We're not really experts, so to speak, in that regard. But the Board of Health did have a sense of wanting to ban the recreational type of facilities in town.
Thank you. So maybe that would be something that I'd be interested in as a town meeting member, as trying to make my decision. It would be nice to know, as I look at comparisons, to say, well, what's the addiction rate of alcohol? we regulate it. What's the addiction rate of tobacco? We regulate it. What's the addiction rate of marijuana? What, does a ban appropriate or regulation appropriate, you know, based on examples that we have today? And then also, just lastly, I know that there was some provision in the regulations that say that a town can go to town meeting or, you know, and say, have them make the decision, right? But it doesn't mean we have to, I would imagine, right? It's allowable, but I would think that the ones that actually were, had voted on question 4 to say, you know, the majority was in favor of legalizing, if they wanted to ban it, they would have to go on a ballot question to the town and let the people decide whether they wanted a ban or not. So I would like the board to maybe consider whether it's appropriate, given you know, the close proximity of, you know, only 5% difference, maybe that the town should have a chance to vote on this in a ballot question rather than going to town meeting where we would be making our opinions on, you know, taking away personal choice from, you know, residents in the town. I wouldn't, you know, it's going to be a hard decision to say, well, you know, it's legal, you know, in all these different places, in your home, the town next door, through mail delivery, but you know what, I'm going to take your personal choice away and you can't go in town and purchase this. So that's something, you know, that's going to be a tough call in imposing our will on the people on a ban. So I thought maybe that'd be something the board could consider to say if there's something temporary or at least some time to bring it, if it's too short of a time, to eventually say until such a time that it can go on the ballot and people can decide whether they want it or not.
Comments on clarification on that? Because
I don't know the answer.
it's not, yeah.
What was the question?
My well, I think the question,
I could rephrase it. So the question would be, can you bring this as to the town as a town ballot question, like the ones that were more in favor of recreational marijuana? Why we could do the same. We don't have to bring it to town meeting and have 240 people impose their will on the rest in a case where ballot question seems to maybe being used for a lot of towns and for the overall question 4 as well.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Kane.
Well, I would argue that the town already voted 55 to 45 against question 4. So to some extent, that vote's already been held. And it's my understanding that the statute adopted by the legislature allows for those communities who voted no to bring it to their legislative body, in our case, the town meeting, and for those who voted yes to go back to the ballot. I suppose we could always choose to seek some non-binding sense of the people on a variety of these matters, but it's my understanding it wouldn't be binding because it doesn't fit in either of those boxes.
Is there any way we could get clarification on it, like for,
Mr. Mizikar can get clarification.
just to
on
make sure? Maybe it's worth it. Okay, thank you.
it. Thank you.